Hello, squirrel listeners. We're on chapter 12 of An Old-Fashioned Girl called Forbidden Fruit. I'm perfectly aching for some fun, said Polly to herself as she opened her window one morning and the sunshine and frosty air set her blood dancing and her eyes sparkling with youth, health, and overflowing spirits. I really must break out somewhere and have a good time. It's quite impossible to keep steady any longer. Now what will I do? Polly sprinkled crumbs to the doves who came daily to be fed, and while she watched the gleaming necks and rosy feet, she racked her brain to devise some unusually delightful way of enjoying herself. For she really had bottled up her spirits so long they were in a state of uncontrollable effervescence. I'll go to the opera, she suddenly announced to the doves. It's expensive, I know, but it's remarkably good, and music is such a treat to me. Yes, I'll get 2 tickets as cheap as I can. Send a note to Will, poor lad. He needs a nice time in some corner, as Charles Lamb and his sister used to. With that, Polly slammed down the window to the dismay. It moved on me. To the dismay of her gentle little pensioners, and began to fly about with great energy, singing and talking to herself as if it was impossible to keep quiet. She started early to her first lesson that she might have time to buy the tickets, hoping as she put a $5 bill into her purse that they wouldn't be very high, for she felt she was not in a mood to resist temptation. But she was spared any struggle, for when she reached the place, the ticket office was blocked up by eager purchasers, and the disappointed faces that turned away told Polly there was no hope for her. Well, I don't care. I'll go somewhere, for I will have my fun, she said with great determination, for disappointment only seemed to whet her appetite. But the playbill showed her nothing inviting, and she was forced to go away to her work with the money burning her pocket, and all manner of wild schemes floating in her mind. At noon, instead of going home to dinner, she went and took an ice, trying to feel very gay and festive all by herself. Took an ice. It was rather a failure, however, and after a tour of the picture shops, she went to give Maud a lesson, feeling that it was very hard to quench her longings and subside into a prim little music teacher. Fortunately, she did not have to do violence to her feelings very long, for the first thing Fanny said to her was, "Can you go?" "Where? Didn't you get my note?" "I didn't go home to dinner." "Tom wants us to go to opera tonight, and—" Fan got no further, for Polly uttered a cry of rapture and clasped her hands. "Go? Of course I will. I've been dying to go all day. I tried to get tickets this morning and couldn't. Been fuming about it ever since, and now, oh, how splendid!" And Polly could not restrain an ecstatic skip, for this burst of joy rather upset her. "Well, you come to tea, and we'll dress together and go all comfortable with Tom, who is in a heavenly frame of mind today." "I must run home and get my things," said Polly, resolving on the spot to buy the nicest pair of gloves the city afforded. "You shall have my white cloak and any other little rigging you want. Tommy, and it says likes. I like this version. Let me get this one fired up. 2 Kindles. One old, one new. You'd think it'd be the same thing. It's supposed to be, but Tommy likes to have his ladies a credit to him, you know, said Fanny, departing to take a beauty sleep. Polly instantly decided that she wouldn't borrow Becky's best bonnet as she had at first intended, but get a new one, for in her present excited state no extravagance seemed too prodigal in honor of this grand occasion. See if I can get this up right quick and switch versions and see if it is better. Like I say, it's supposed to be the very same book, but I remember this one being weird. Should be the very same, but it's not. Alright. Hurry it up. Let's see. Here we go. Alright, yep, let's try this one. Ah! Come on. Shutting down. Okay. Now I gotta find the spot. And festivals with fair. Will you come to tea? Oh no, not this again. I hope I still have sound. Please, Lord, let me have sound. Let's see. I'm afraid that Maud's lesson was not as thorough as it should have been, for Polly's head was in such a chaos of bonnets, gloves, opera cloaks, and fans that Maud blundered through, murdering time and tune at her own sweet will. The instant it was over, Polly rushed away and bought not only the kids' gloves, but a bonnet frame, a bit of illusion, and a pink crepe rose, which had tempted her for weeks in a certain shop window, then home, and to work with all the skill and speed of a distracted milliner. I wondered, a bonnet frame, so she's going to make her own hat. I'm rushing madly into expense, I'm afraid, but the fit is on me, and I'll eat bread and water for a week to make up for it. I must look nice, for Tom seldom takes me, and ought to be gratified when he does. I want to do like other girls just for once and enjoy myself without thinking about right or wrong. Now a bit of pink ribbon to tie it with, and I shall be done in time to do up my best collar, she said, turning her boxes topsy-turvy for the necessary ribbon in that delightful flurry which young ladies feel on such occasions. It's my private opinion that the little shifts and struggles we poor girls have to undergo beforehand give a peculiar relish to our fun when we get it. This fact will account for the rapturous mood in which Polly found herself when, after making her bonnet, washing and ironing her best set, blacking her boots, and mending her fan, she at last, like Consuelo, put on a little dress of black silk, and with the smaller adornments pinned up in a paper, started for the shawls, finding it difficult to walk decorously when her heart was dancing in her bosom. Maud happened to be playing a redowa up in the parlor, and Polly came prancing into the room, so evidently spoiling for a dance, that Tom, who was there, found it impossible to resist catching her about the waist and pulling her through the most intricate evolutions till Maud's fingers gave out. That was splendid. Oh, Tom, thank you so much for asking me tonight. I feel just like having a regular good time, cried Polly when she stopped, Wasn't it him that was all over her feet when they were kids dancing? Pretty sure. With her hat hanging around her neck and her hair looking as if she had been out in a high wind. Glad of it. I felt so myself and thought we'd have a jolly little party all in the family, said Tom, looking much gratified at her delight. Is Trix sick? Asked Polly. Gone to New York for a week. Ah, when the cat's away, the mice will play. Exactly. Come and have another turn. Before they could start, however, the awful spectacle of a little dog trotting out of the room with a paper parcel in his mouth made Polly clasp her hands with a despairing cry, "My bonnet! Oh, my bonnet! Where? What? Which?" And Tom looked about him bewildered. "Snip's got it! Save it! Save it!" "I will!" And Tom gave chase with more vigor than discretion. Snip, evidently regarding it as a game, got up for his special benefit, enjoyed the race immensely, and scampered all over the house, shaking the precious parcel like a rat, while his master ran and whistled, commanded and coaxed in vain. Polly followed, consumed with anxiety, and Maud laughed till Mrs. Shaw sent down to know who was in hysterics. A piteous yelp from the lower regions at last announced that the thief was captured, and Tom appeared bearing Snip by the nape of the neck in one hand and Polly's cherished bonnet in the other. "The little scamp was just going to worry it when I grabbed him. I'm afraid he's eaten one of your gloves. I can't find it. And this one is pretty well chewed up," said Tom, bereaving Snip of the torn kid to which he still pertinaciously clung. "Serves me right," said Polly with a groan. "I'd no business to get a new pair, but I wanted to be extra gorgeous tonight, and this is my punishment for such mad extravagance." "Was there anything else?" asked Tom. "Only my best cuffs and collar. You'll probably find them in the coal bin," said Polly with the calmness of despair. "I saw some little white things on the dining room floor as I raced through. Go get them, Maud, and we'll repair damages," said Tom, shutting the culprit into the boot closet, where he placidly rolled himself up and went to sleep. "They ain't hurt a bit," proclaimed Maud, restoring the lost treasures. "Neither is my bonnet, for which I'm deeply grateful," said Polly, who had been examining it with the solicitude which made Tom's eyes twinkle. "So am I, for it strikes me that this is an uncommonly knobby little affair," he said approvingly. Tom had a weakness for pale pink roses, and perhaps Polly knew it. "I'm afraid it's too gay," said Polly with a dubious look. "Not a bit. Sort of bridal, you know. Must be becoming. Put it on and let's see." "I wouldn't for the world, with my hair all tumbling down. Don't look at me till I'm respectable. And please don't tell anyone how I've been acting. I think I must be a little crazy tonight," said Polly, gathering up her rescued finery and preparing to go and find Fan. "Lunacy is mighty becoming, Polly. Try it again," answered Tom, watching her as she went away laughing, looking all the prettier for her dishevelment. "Dress that girl up and she'd be a raving, tearing beauty," added Tom to Maud in a lower tone as he took her into the parlor under his arm. Polly heard it and instantly resolved to be as raving and as tearing as her means would allow, just for one night, she said as she peeped over the banisters, glad to see that the dance and the race had taken the bandboxy air out of Tom's elegant array. "I deeply regret being obliged to shock the eyes and ears of such of my readers as have a prejudice in favor of pure English by expressions like the above, but having rashly undertaken to write a little story About young America, for young America, I feel bound to depict my honored patrons as faithfully as my limited powers permit. Otherwise, I must expect the crushing criticism. Well, I dare say it's all very prim and proper, but isn't a bit like us, and never hope to arrive at the distinction of finding... What is this? It's like the author, like she's talking to us. That's strange. Never hope to arrive at the distinction of finding the covers of an old-fashioned girl the dirtiest in the library. Why is that in there? The friends had a social cup of tea upstairs, which Polly considered the height of luxury, and then each took a mirror and proceeded to print to her heart's content. The earnestness with which Polly made her toilet that night was delightful to behold. Feeling in a daring mood, she released her pretty hair from the braids in which she usually wore it and permitted the curls to display themselves in all their brown abundance, especially several dangerous little ones about the temples and forehead. The putting on of the rescued collar and cuffs was a task which absorbed her whole mind. So was the settling of a minute bit of corked plaster just to the left of the dimple in her chin, an unusual bit of coquetry in which Polly would not have indulged if an almost invisible scratch had not given her an excuse for doing it. The white down-trimmed cloak with certain imposing ornaments on the hood was assumed with becoming gravity and draped with much advancing and retreating before the glass as its wearer practiced the true Boston gait, elbows back, shoulders forward, a bend and a slide, occasionally varied by a slight skip. But when that bonnet went on, Polly actually held her breath till it was safely landed, and the pink rose bloomed above the smooth waves of hair with what Fanny called her ravishing effect. At this successful stage of affairs, Polly found it impossible to resist the loan of a pair of gold bands for the wrist and Fanny's white fan with a little mirror in the middle. "I can put them in my pocket if I feel too much dress," said Polly as she snapped on the bracelets. But after a wave or two of the fan, she felt it would be impossible to take them off till the evening was over, so enticing was their glitter. Fanny also lent her a pair of three-button gloves, which completed her content, and when Tom greeted her with an approving, "Here's a sight for gods and men, why, Polly, you're gorgeous," she felt that her fun had decidedly begun. "Wouldn't Polly make a lovely bride?" said Maud, who was revolving about the two girls, trying to decide whether she would have a blue or white cloak when she grew up and went to operas. "Faith, and she would. Allow me to congratulate you, Mrs. Sidney," added Tom, advancing with his wedding reception bow and a wicked look at Fanny. "Go away! How dare you!" cried Polly, growing much redder than her rose. "If we're going to the opera tonight, perhaps we'd better start, as the carriage has been waiting some time," observed Fan coolly, and sailed out of the room in her unusual lofty manner. "Don't you like it, Polly?" "Oh, don't you like it, Polly?" whispered Tom as they went downstairs together. "Very much. The deuce you do. I'm so fond of music, how can I help it? I'm talking about Sid." "Well, I'm not." "You'd better try for him." "I'll think of it." "Oh, Polly, Polly, what are you coming to?" "A tumble into the street, apparently," answered Polly, as she slipped a little on the step, and Tom stopped in the middle of his laugh to pilot her safely. into the carriage where Fanny was already seated. "Here's a richness," said Polly to herself as she rolled away, feeling as Cinderella probably did when the pumpkin coach bore her to the first ball, only Polly had two princes to think about, and poor Cinderella on that occasion had not even Polly had two princes, and poor Cinderella on that occasion had not even one. Fanny didn't seem inclined to talk much, and Tom would go on in such a ridiculous manner that Polly told him she wouldn't listen, and began to hum bits of the opera, but she heard every word nevertheless, and resolved to pay him for his impertinence as soon as possible by showing him what he had lost. Their seats were in the balcony, and hardly were they settled when, by one of those remarkable coincidences which are continually occurring in our youth, Mr. Sidney and Fanny's old friend Frank Moore took their places just behind them. "Oh, you villain, you did it on purpose," whispered Polly as she turned from greeting their neighbors and saw a droll look on Tom's face. "I give you my word I didn't. It's the law of attraction, don't you see? If Fan likes it, I don't care." She looks resigned, I think. She certainly did, for she was talking and laughing in the gayest manner with Frank, while Sidney was covertly surveying Polly, as if he didn't quite understand how the gray grub got so suddenly transformed into a white butterfly. So it is a well-known fact that dress plays a very important part in the lives of most women, and even the most sensible cannot help owning sometimes how much happiness they owe to a becoming gown, gracefully arranged hair, or a bonnet which brings out the best points in their faces and puts them in a good humor. And I think I'm going to stop right there. Watch me not have much more to read. No. Yeah, it's a good bit more. But I should be able to get it all tomorrow. Yep. Alright, I hope y'all have a wonderfully crafty night. And I have not touched that wrap that I gotta finish putting a ruffle on tonight. I'll take pictures in the morning and get it on the site where the cow is taking place. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Hope to see you tomorrow at 3. Bye-bye.